Chanteuseuses, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode 12 of UNSUNG. I really appreciate you all showing up, being here, being a part of this. I had Jerry Toland's interview last week, and I hope you all had an opportunity to check that out because, I don't know, man, it doesn't get any more real than that. So, welcome back. Today, I have an individual with me that is long overdue for not only discussion, but to put into a certain paradigm of people that have done such great work in this city for so long and helped to create a music scene in the city. And so not only do I wish to give some recognition for that, but just dialoguing with this individual I think is going to be a great benefit to me and to you too. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Sherry Kennedy. Sherry, how the hell you doing?
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Gavin, and I really do want you to know that I appreciate you taking the time, giving me a call, and wanting to talk to me and find out a little bit about, you know, me.
You and I have worked together. You've called me on several occasions. And I'm sure I played well on at least half of those.
I think you played well on all of them, let's say that.
Those have been some of my most learning experiences, and getting to play with guys like Stoll and, you know, Bellevue or Keith Day or, you know, any of these guys has always been a great experience for me. Hamilton is another guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and we'll get there, but I want to go back a little bit. And I just want to learn what I don't even know, and I'm sure the people could probably benefit from. And that is simply, who is Sherry Kennedy? Where did she come from? Where was she born? How did she grow up? When did she get this desire that, you know, that hangs on to you for a lifetime?
Well, I'm an Alberta-born girl. Lethbridge, actually, was where I was born. As a young child, I lived in Fort Macleod, and I started singing when I was probably about 3 or 4. I started performing at 5. I did my first recording in a recording studio at 6, and I honestly can say that I never knew there was anything else for me other than being a singer. I was always a singer. I was born to sing. Music has been my life from the very beginning. And I used to sit on my dad's knee and we'd sing, like, you know, we'd sing in like church and sing at talent shows and all kinds of things. It's just, it was life. It was the way I was raised, right? Music, music, music.
It's like that for so many of us. I mean, I think that, at least my theory is, that most people, if not all, start out with a grand desire. And typically that takes the form of either art or science in most respects, or, you know, jobs that require some degree of curation. You know, like if you ask a 5-year-old boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? He doesn't say, I want to work in the mailroom at Amazon. It's just not a dream of anybody. But if you ask him that, he says, I want to be a firefighter.
Yeah, right.
I want to be a policeman. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a drummer, God forbid. And so, you know, but I think that that can be extracted from us by the one word that we learn, no. You know, it's the one word we probably hear as kids more than we hear anything else. Don't touch that. No. Right?
Yeah.
And whatever it is, that will inside of the artist that propels them forward. Is that how you felt?
Well, my parents were very supportive of me. My mother was an artist, and my dad, he always sang. Like, I mean, he was that guy, right? But he was also a welder. And then when he was like, I guess he must have been around 45. He seemed really, really old to me, but he must have been around 45. And he went back to university and got his education degree, and then he got his master's, and he became fairly high up on the totem pole at the college in Lethbridge and did very well, and then wrote a book. So I came from that background of, if you want to do something, you do it. You go for it. And if other people are saying, no, you can't do it, then you go, I think I can. And then you go do it, right?
Wow.
So I was very fortunate in that way, because I grew up watching people actually do what they wanted to do. And they were happy. Like my parents were actually happy. So I feel very fortunate in that respect.
I guess. It seems to me like at a very early age then, you observe things like desire, drive, risk.
Like, I just feel like whenever I have these thoughts of what I want to do, how am I going to know if I don't go for it? You'll either say, geez, I really should have done that. But why don't you just go for it?
Well, I think there's nothing healthier for a child, especially, than to have that kind of influence around them at that age. Because obviously that was part of, it seemed, maybe, your intrinsic teaching, or the lessons that you learned at a young age, that it was okay to risk, that it was okay to feel and to be passionate.
And to know that when you take these risks, you know, you're not always going to just be surrounded in roses and flowers. You are going to fall. You are going to fail. And then what do you do with that? Like, how do you move on from falling on your face? Oh, geez, that didn't work out so well. I wonder what I can do to make it work better. And all those little experiences, you know, are, I mean, they kind of made me who I am and what I do, why I do what I do.
Sure. And the most beautiful of flowers grow out of the most ugliest of shit.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even mushrooms.
Right? And I love mushrooms.
Me too.
Right. But I don't like what they grow in. That's, you know, that's another thing. But I love me a good mushroom.
Yeah.
Now that we've got poop out of the way, and I'm glad we did that early.
Yeah, me too.
You know, because I don't want that to be the deepest conversation. So you started to grow, and you started to learn. Did you have any formal education? Was there any, you know, did your life turn that way?
You know, I feel like I'm learning all the time. I just believe that, you know, like, learning is so important. It's so important in every aspect of your life. Like, you know, I finished school, and then after I finished school, like, I sang in bands and stuff through school, and then I moved to, I just made the decision I was going to do a demo in Calgary. Like, I just made that decision. So I went.
How old were you?
I was about 18.
Okay.
And I went to the bank, the credit union, and I said, I'd like to take a loan out for $3,000. And this is, no, do you work? Well, I sing in a band. I sing in a band. And I have a piano that I could use as collateral. And they gave me, believe it or not, they actually gave me the money. I hightailed it to Calgary, and I recorded 4 songs in an old studio back then that was called Sound West studio. And I had a huge band. It was so scary. And
So exhilarating, though.
Oh!
Right?
Like, I mean, like, this was the big time. Like, I mean, this was the big time. And it was after that, like, I mean, things just started happening. And I didn't go back to school. I came to Calgary and I just started, I just started playing with all kinds of different bands and people, you know, met lots of different people. Had a lot of opportunities, did commercials. I did a lot of jingles.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Well, and you're in good company, too, with people that didn't go back to school. Steve Smith, the old drummer of Journey, being one of them, because he found Journey, or they found him, in Berkeley, and he just split, and he never went back. Other guys, too, I'm trying to think of other drummers that I know. But just, you know what I mean? You get the gig, you get the job, and you're good.
Yeah.
You just go.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate because I was able to make a living. And I played like 6 nights a week, and I was like, I mean, things were different in the late 70s. They were very different in the early 80s. And then I moved to Toronto, and I did a lot of stuff in Toronto. And then I came back, and I got married, which, you know, I mean, everybody has their stories. And
everybody makes mistakes.
Everybody makes mistakes. But, you know, anyway, I had a baby, and while I was pregnant, I took university courses with Waterloo because I didn't want to lose my brain, right, while I was pregnant. So along with singing, I sang up until I was 9 months pregnant. And I was singing in the Friedenberg Big Band, and that was all great. And some other bands as well. But, I mean, being pregnant, people didn't, you know, back then, and that was probably the mid-'80s, people, you know, they didn't really, you weren't on stage when you were pregnant, bouncing around. And I remember one of my bass players saying to me, he's such a great guy, his name is John Hyde. Should I be mentioning names here?
Of course you should.
Yeah, John Hyde said to me, you know, sure, you got the greatest pregnant gigging clothes. That was the biggest compliment, right? Yeah, Gold May. Yeah.
Well, John, if you're out there, we acknowledge you.
Yeah, and he was just awesome, awesome guy.
Just another guy that gave a lot to this city, right?
Oh my God. I was fortunate to work with the most amazing people when I got here.
Yeah. Now I mean, you're known for a lot of things, a lot of genres.
Yeah.
But I think we skipped over something very important.
What's that?
It's a certain icon in the Edmonton area once a year that you portray.
Oh, I'll tell you.
And I'm talking about
Klondike Kate.
Right.
Well, Klondike Kate, and I'll tell you when this started. It started in 1988. And I was called for an audition to perform for the Olympics as Klondike Kate. And at the time, I didn't really even know what Klondike Kate was or who Klondike Kate was. And this was in Banff, Lake Louise, Jasper, any of, was the CP hotels at that time. I did a lot of traveling. I mean, I performed at the Canadian consulate in Los Angeles, and I've done a lot of that as that character. But I didn't really know who this Klondike Kate was or anything, so I started to do some research because I thought, you know, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it and do it properly.
Yeah.
And I found out a lot about this person. She was like a woman's woman before there was even that kind of thing happen. She was an entrepreneur. She actually funded, I think his name was Walter Pantages, for his first theater up in, it was up in the Yukon. I sort of based my character on Mae West. you know, I did some research about Mae West and found out about her because, you know, she had that kind of, you know, sway and swagger about her. But in reality, Mae West never uttered a foul word. It was just the way she presented, the way she spoke. You know, that kind of stuff.
Come
right?
up and see me
Come
sometime.
up and see me sometime. Right? Like that kind of stuff, right? But she never said anything. Now, she did a radio show in the 30s with Don Ameche. And after they did this radio show, I think it was Adam's Rib that they had done. After they did this show, she was banned for like 30 years from radio. She wasn't out because of the way she spoke, not what she said, but the way she delivered her lines. And that's...
Wow,
yeah,
just too much heat.
too much heat.
Amazing.
And so she became one of the wealthiest women in Hollywood, not because of her performances, but she got into real estate. So there again, these women who were these sort of people who were the sex symbol kind of people, they weren't just all fluff. These women were women who were paving the way for women today to make it in the business world.
Yeah,
And
I don't know that history of Mae West. That's very interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
And that must have been a young Don Ameche.
Yeah, oh, they were both, I guess, back in those days they would have been.
Because Don Ameche was in Cocoon, right? The Ron
Yeah,
Howard
he
film.
was the old guy
Yeah,
in
he was
Cocoon.
pretty
right.
old.
Yeah. So they were on the radio doing this show.
So she just wasn't some kind of floozy.
No,
from the
that's
30s, was
yes,
she?
thank you.
She was actually a proper definition of the woman.
Right?
Right.
And honestly, back then, let's face it, there weren't many jobs. And women who were in the entertainment business, and I'm sure there's still people out there who think that women in the entertainment industry are a little bit sleazy. But, you know, we need to change those attitudes, right?
Yeah, well, and industry is another thing.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, industry is a creation. You and I were talking about before we actually went on, you know, the difference between celebrity and mastery.
Yes.
And celebrity does not beg the former. It doesn't need it to exist. And yet art itself begs for mastery. And so I think in some ways, you know, I mean, it's not that people don't like a spectacle. And it's not that people should not be afforded a spectacle. But even with, you know, you got Depp Heard going on right now, man. And I mean, it's a psychosis in a sense that we vicariously live our lives through people we don't think we could ever measure up to, or when they fall, in this case, we think we're better than. It's a very weird duality there.
Right.
I think. Art, music, all these things, what is, define that for me, because you're doing so much. I mean, you've done so much over your life. You've done all the musics that I've alluded to. You know, you've done the Klondike Kate thing, acting, and all these things. But in the last certain epoch of time, you've started doing things like painting. And painting in a very interesting paradigm, which I've found, you know, quite exciting. What is it about the artistic life? Well, get to the paintings, absolutely. What is it about the artistic life that just keeps you alive and keeps you going?
You know, that's really a good statement. Just what you said, keeps you alive and keeps you going. And I truly believe that music is a healing art form. I truly, honestly believe it heals. I've watched people come in when I coach them, and I watch the way they stand, and we talk about stuff, and once that vagus nerve starts to vibrate, whether we're just humming or whether we're doing vocal warm-ups or whatever, the body starts to change, the body straightens. And so as a singer watching that happen, I've watched people who have come to me who are cancer survivors, people who've been sexually abused or emotionally abused or whatever, like all walks of life. It doesn't matter. I mean, I actually even taught a deaf woman how to sing. That was the most challenging, most incredible experience of my life, because I didn't know she was hard of hearing, or what hearing impaired, I guess is proper term. I think she's the one person that I'm not going to be able to teach. I'm not going to help her. I'm not going to be able to do what she needs me to do. And the next time she came, where I'm still trying to get this key thing happening, and I hear this, and I'm like, what the heck is that noise? What is that? She said, oh, that's probably my hearing aids. I said, oh, are you hearing impaired? She said, yeah.
She said, what?
She said, yeah, oh, you're awful. she said, yeah, she said, yes, I am. Well, what's the extent? Oh, I'm totally deaf if I don't have my hearing aids, if I don't have this. So what we started doing was getting her to feel her throat, feel the beat, and I would use this. So she could feel this movement.
And that's maybe the tightening and the releasing.
Yeah.
The higher note tightening.
Right? And so on her lyrics, we'd go through word by word by word, up. This is when you feel that going up and down. So we had little arrows going all over her lyrics. And I'm not going to say that she became Celine Dion or anybody like that, but she experienced her dream. Because I always put on shows for my students, and we have the sets and we have lights, and it's a show. It's not a recital, it's a show. And she came out, and of course I prefaced to the audience, because this was the most empowering thing that she could ever have done, not just for herself, but for everybody else in the audience, to see this woman with this impairment come out and actually sing. And everybody else was going, that is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And so that I know that music is healing, and it doesn't matter if you're singing or playing. Music is healing. Music is the biggest love that anyone will feel, in my opinion. That's
an amazing story. It seems like there must have been a humbling aspect to that, perhaps.
Oh, it was just like, when I work with these kind of people, like you said, it's humbling, because you go, holy smokes, I take it for granted that I just sing these songs and I go out there and do my thing and I get paid to do it and blah, 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 blah. But when these people come to me and somehow I'm able to give them something, and there they are up on stage living the dream.
Right. And given a vehicle to express themselves in a way that others may say, that's not for you.
And Gavin, the one thing that I hear so often from people who are adults who are coming to sing, and they're like, oh, well, we're probably too old to sing, we're probably too old to start or whatever. But it's because when I was a kid, I wanted to sing so bad. And my teacher told me not to sing, to just mouth the words. I have heard that so many times that I would like to strangle those people, whoever said that to a child. Just don't.
Right, well, and that's the delineation. I mean, a lifetime of music may not be your thing, but then it may not be your thing anyway. That goes back to what I was saying about, I believe that everyone has something. Like some students would come to me and they would say, I want to play the drums. And I go, well, we're going to test that theory. I wouldn't believe them,
Yeah.
Yeah, just on the fact that they said something to me, kind of like the internet. You know, I want to prove that thing.
Yeah.
And so I would go about proving it. Now, if drumming wasn't necessarily their thing, and that never had to do whether they were good or bad at drumming, it had to do solely with desire. Right?
Good one.
So if they came to me and after a certain amount of time, you're not practicing, you don't give a shit, you know, your parents are just dropping you off for a half an hour to get you out of their hair.
Yes, that's right.
Right? But I would never leave them with that. I would say, look, perhaps this thing ain't for you, but I can bet you dollars to donuts that there is something that puts you to bed at night and wakes you up in the morning. And it's that thing you can't let go of.
And what I find too with kids is that children develop their voices differently. Once they start listening, they actually listen. They start hearing, they hear different things in their voice. They don't realize that singing is not just standing up there and opening your mouth and just letting it all come out. It's like learning an instrument, right? Learning what your instrument is, because each vocal instrument is different than another vocal instrument.
That is an interesting thing you just said, because when I think about what you just said about the fact that once you start listening, and whether that's just a cognitive thing where you weren't aware that you weren't listening, or it's a fear to listen to yourself.
Yeah, oh yes, that's
right?
a big one.
Right. And that I think is the prerequisite to greatness in any respect. And it is that humility to allow yourself to know how good you're not.
Yes, isn't that the truth, right?
It's not about telling yourself how amazing you are, or putting yourself necessarily in a place. You can project. You can see yourself as a singer up on stage, blah, blah, blah. But in order to become great at anything, not art, anything necessarily, you have to risk knowing what isn't good about you in that respect. And, you know, the reason that I think that's such a great point you made is because I've been experiencing that in my sphere of influence lately.
Interesting.
And it's the one thing, there's a hubris to just accepting that you are a thing when you're clearly not. There is humility in saying, I want to be that, but I must do this to get there. And one of those things is to be able to say, I'm not very good. That is the plight of the artist, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Anyone from Van Gogh to...
Absolutely. And you know, here that brings me to a point too that I just thought about, like in my studio that I have where, I mean, I do my practice, you practice with me there, rehearsal, you know, all the band stuff. What I want in that studio is I want it to be, I want them to feel safe enough to cack. Because when you just go for it, risk again, and you go for it and you try something and it goes, oh man, that just sucked big time. You know, oh, I won't do that again. Let's try it this way. Oh, that was a little bit better. So each time that you make that mistake or you cack, you get better. Or at least you should.
Right, and I think one of the elements to getting better is to being around, well, there's a duality in that because, you know, when a guy like Quincy Jones used to hit the jams with like the big bands, you know, when they used to put on cutting sessions, I mean, it was just enough for somebody to say, you suck, get off stage.
Yes.
So
that's a different place than my studio.
Exactly, and so it should be. But in those teaching things, and, you know, I will stretch this as far out as humanity itself, to say that one of the best ways to learn is where there is no judgment. So when you cannot be judged for your persona or your personality or for the human being, but you can be, what, dissected to say, this doesn't measure that.
Yeah.
Then, and I think that's what you're saying about your space.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that place to measure.
To measure, absolutely. And be okay with that. Like, another one of my sayings is to my people that I work with. Leave your self-bashing attitude at the door. Allow it just to happen. You don't know enough yet to bash yourself, because if you're bashing yourself, you're standing on your hose of creativity, and that creativity, boop, it stops. So how can you get better if you're bashing yourself all over the place because you wouldn't talk to somebody else like you talk to yourself? Right?
Very true.
Right?
Right.
So, and some people
well, I have some people that I could probably argue with you. I think they've told me everything they think about themselves. But regardless of that, I think what you're saying is that it just is, it's that place of, number one, you can't judge yourself. You have to judge yourself practically.
Yes.
Right? You have to be honest.
Yes.
But you don't have to destroy.
But that's why they're there, is to get the feedback from somebody, me, who actually can tell them their goodness or things that they can improve on, because, you know, I have the experience. But when you're a rank amateur, like, you know, you're a rank amateur, you know that you have no clue, so why are you saying, oh, geez, that sucks, yeah, I suck, and you go, well, you know what, let's do it so that you don't suck. Maybe quit saying that you suck, and then let's just experiment with a few little things here, change the way you think, and maybe you can get over that hump, right?
Well, that was a huge learning lesson for me in my 20s. Was, I mean, I was so passionate and I was practicing every day, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and I was sucking. I was, you know what I mean? I was like bombing at the palace, you know, so bad. And every gig I did, I would berate myself to death. And the guy looked at me and said, you know what? There are no bad gigs.
And you know, Gavin, that is so true. Because, like, I think about back in, like, when I first started out and everything, and I couldn't take a compliment, could not take anybody saying, geez, you're good, or whatever. I was doing this gig, and I was in the green room. Now, this green room was a root cellar. I was down there.
So the brown room.
Yeah, it was kind of like the brown room. Yeah. And I was in this room, sitting down there by myself. The musicians were somewhere else, probably at the bar. And, anyway, I was sitting down there, and I'm thinking all these excuses, and geez, well, like, what if I don't remember all the lyrics, and what if I like, it was just a constant barrage of negative thought. And it was the weirdest sensation, because it was like, and I'm not saying it was the hand of God or whatever it was, maybe it was the hand of God. But something happened to me down there. It was the biggest epiphany. And it was basically, you need to change your attitude here. This is not about you. This is about you giving the gift out to these people who have paid you to come and do your job as a singer, as an entertainer. This is your gift. And if you just constantly bash yourself, you will never reach the potential of what you want to be or do. And I don't mean stardom. I just mean be the best singer or the best performer that you can be at that moment, right?
And accept that.
And accept it.
Right.
I have thought of that every time and just go, I want to give you guys the best show that I can give. I'm going to give it all to you. And that has taken so much stress and pressure off me as an entertainer or the lead person in a band.
I'm just going to accept the reality
of
what is. Then there's that chance. And I'm curious, that whatever that was that spoke to you wasn't the hobo behind the cabbage in the root cellar, was it?
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
But they're sitting.
Right, and he's like, man, I wish she'd shut up. I'm trying to sleep.
Holy crap, she's so screwed up.
I thought I was bad.
Yeah, right.
But I know for the artist, because this has been my experience, that I've had to grow through my self-loathing, my own narcissism, my ignorance, my judgment of other people, which is one of the greatest things. You know, when you get up on stage, there could be every nationality and every group and every sexual orientation, and nobody gives a shit. Somehow it all goes away, and all there is this spiritual, if you can call it that, connectivity to one another, wanting to give your best, do your best, hear the best, respond to the best, and it becomes this collective what?
Energy.
Right. And collective creation.
Yeah.
Of everyone in that moment. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you can feel it. Usually I try to make like an eye contact and smile at that person or have some kind of interaction with just you. And when you do that, that person now knows you, or they think they know you, right? We're buddies. And like when you do that, even it like in maybe your body language or whatever it is, it's like this spark goes off in that person, boop, and it goes over to this person. And they're like, what the hell happened? Right?
What are you so happy about?
What are you happy? And then they're kind of like, oh yeah, that's not as bad as I thought. Right? You know, that kind of thing. And it's like it's like an electrical connection or an energetic connection where you spark the guy or woman or whoever, and it goes to the next person because their energy now has changed. So it changes, it hits these guys. Oh, it changes, it changes, it changes. And you can see, I can guarantee you that when you do this, you can see the whole vibration of the room change. It is one of the coolest things that I ever have experienced.
And not only that, it's two things. It's sort of the power the artist intrinsically has to change in the moment the lives of other people.
Yes.
Right? Which is typically why people come to partake of art.
Yeah.
Right? They want to experience something that is outside the paradigm of their normal, perhaps boring, stale, malignant lives, that they can get inspired by, that they can be challenged by, whether it's word or thought or just the observance of somebody playing an instrument that blows their mind.
Exactly.
Right, and they go back to their job and they go, I think I can build a better widget today.
Yeah, it's all part of it, the inspiration. Entertainment is also part of the inspiration because maybe they're not inspired to greatness, but if they're inspired in that moment, just that moment, if they're inspired for whatever, to be nicer to their husband or their wife or whoever, maybe leave a bigger tip to the waiter or whatever, right? Like, if you can just get that little poke in there and give somebody something that's beautiful, whether it's like whatever kind of music that you're listening to, if it speaks to you on a certain level and it hits that vibration within you, it's pretty cool.
Right.
Everybody wins.
In terms of that, you have a person that observes somebody doing a curated, masterful job of something. And I think that in some ways, maybe I'm just saying again what I said before, but that mastery informs that individual. Number one, it sort of heaps hot coals on their head. It makes them accountable for their own life and gives them an observance of whether or not they're doing their best or they could do better.
Yes.
And number two, the artist, in giving that information, also says, it's not that there's anything special in me, I just did, and you haven't yet. So why don't you? And that's how I think we inspire people.
I so totally agree with that. Like, if you're good, how much better can you be, right? Like, don't just shut your mind off and think, yeah, I'm at my best. This is my best. Well, what's tomorrow? If this is your best...
It's all downhill from there.
Bye! But, you know, this is the thing, like, when I was in Nashville, and I keep saying this because this was like another aha moment for me. In the studio, with these amazing people who, I mean, they're session musicians, but they were like, you know, Aretha Franklin's guitar player. Oh, and another guitar player that I worked with there, he was like Guitar Player of the Year for 12 years in a row. Piano player was, he got I don't know how many Grammys for like gospel piano. And I mean, like, we're talking like incredible, major, top line people. And me. And it was like, holy jumping toot. So what are you going to do?
I'll ask you to watch your language.
Yes, right. Sorry. So here I am, and I'm going, you know, like, I mean, I know I'm pretty good, but I better get my game going here, because these guys are amazing. So what is beautiful about that for me was that they kicked my ass up about 40 notches, and I did stuff that, you know, I wanted to do before, but I just didn't need to or have to, or like, you know, but they kicked my butt. And it was one of the best learning experiences. And then they're like, hey, Sherry, that's really good. Good job. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Right? You know, like, we need people to surround, we need to surround ourselves with people who also inspire you to be better than, to be your best every day, right? Or be better than you were yesterday, or however you want to word that. So to me, like, being with really other great musicians or singers or people in the business, Gavin, doesn't that feel good to be with people who lift you up and make you even better than what you were?
Of course. I think what's even better than that, like, think about it. You went to Nashville and you met these people, and in so meeting them, you rose. And not only that, you couldn't have been happier. I'm sure in terms of your endorphins, they were off the chart.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if I just build a thought experiment a little bit around that experience, what would it be if you actually lived your life around people like that? Your entire life, meaning that you were educated with them from a young age. When you got to that point, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily take it as a one-time event to get better. You would be part of a culture
yes.
that was that amazingly good.
Isn't that the truth?
Can I just want to finish my thought, because
Sorry.
my thought, no. My thought is, why can't Calgary be that place?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I know there's talk of music cities. I know there's talk of all these things. I feel there is no reason and there's no excuse that Calgary can't build its foundation to be a place where people from all over the world, well, number one, maybe come to this geography to learn great things, but also go back to their own geographies and start that greatness within those towns. I spent 3 years living in Baton Rouge, and I was around what you're talking about every day. And thank God they gave me the chance to prove myself.
Awesome.
It took a while.
Isn't that awesome?
But if Calgary started a foundation built on the individual themselves and the collective, the everyone, the 90%, let's say, and builds it up from there with a cultural binding that could not be unbroken.
I don't think there's any reason why Calgary couldn't be exactly like that. And because there's so many really great players. And if we had the attitude of, well, we're really good, let's be even better. Like if we continued that attitude of that, we would not only bring our own selves up, but anybody else who was starting out, we could also bring them up as well.
It is romantic at the moment. It's a thought experiment.
Yeah.
I don't expect tomorrow to wake up and Calgary be the place I want it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why this show exists,
Yeah.
is so that we can have this time.
That's so awesome.
And that's why I love talking to you. That's why I love talking to people, well, I say people like you, but every person is necessarily like you, right? There are no differences there. I mean, so their ideologies may be different, but their humanity is never, never any different.
And you know, Gavin, that is so true. And I found that when I have traveled with singing, with music, that it didn't matter where you were. People feel the same about their families. There's loving, they love their kids, they love this, they hate that. But music kind of brings you together, and even though it's a different language, we're all understanding each other on that level. And that was a real big aha for me as well, to find that out, that we're all basically the same.
Right. You have a project that I think we have to talk about. And so if you just want to give people where they can see this and a synopsis.
Oh, okay. Well, Sing TV, it's my new project. And what it is, it's a wonderful channel on PPN Network. And I have lots of tips and tricks and vocal lessons, videoed vocal lessons for people if they're interested. A lot of free information for singers to find out, you know, different aspects of being a singer and what, you know, like what do I do when blah, blah, blah. You know, how do I hold the microphone? What is my diaphragm? All of these different things, you know, that we are expected to know, but how would you know if you didn't look into it? Right?
And so when does it air?
It is on right now. You can go to www.sing-tv.com and you can see all kinds of nice little videos.
Yeah, catch all the latest episodes.
Yeah, featured videos and yeah, the 2 workshops I have on there is the beginner workshop. And I have the Singer in Your Soul workshop.
Right. Art.
Oh, yes. Okay, do you want me to just quickly tell you about some art?
Yeah, that's a big subject.
Okay, quickly. I never felt I was an artist because my mother was an artist. My daughter gave me a weekend workshop to go and experience some art. And I thought, well, you know, she's given it to me, I will go. And when I did it, I liked it. I thought it was fun, you know, it was all great and everything. But it wasn't speaking to me. But when I got home, I thought, I'm going to try something different. And I put on music. But what I didn't realize, that when I put music on, I started seeing shapes and colors, and I didn't censor myself. I just went along with whatever the music says, I do. And so the canvas is blank. I have no preconceived notion or idea of what is going to appear on the canvas. I just allow the music to speak to me, whether it's hip-hop, rap, classical, musical theater songs, jazz, blues, every kind of music I listen to. And all these things, like, it just, like, I never know. And as soon as I censor myself, as soon as I go, oh, that's crap, then the flow stops.
Right.
And I have to stop, walk away, come back, put the music on, and just allow the music to flow through me again.
So that stops the stream from
Absolutely.
yeah.
Because that's the logical brain going, and you're done.
Right.
Right?
It's an amazing process that you're doing it that way. I mean, I think I've heard of it being constructed in respect to that. I think even the Big Lebowski, there was a scene where oh yeah, Big Lebowski, won't miss it, taken 3 days. That's a great scene. So if people wanted to get, like, can anyone purchase your art? What is the...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They can go to, like I call it, Let the Music Paint, because that's what it is. So it's, again, the website is letthemusicpaint.com, and they can go to my website and check out some of the paintings, or they can contact me, and I'm always thrilled to show my home. Like my home is a gallery, and so I'm always thrilled to take people through my gallery, or allow them to poke around the gallery and see what they like, because I put my art on fashion as well. So I have men's boxers and t-shirts, I have dresses for women and kimonos and all kinds of different like fashion for people.
The art that is represented behind Sherry today is her painting to a Brian Buchanan song. And the name of the piece is called String Theory. And I want to devote this podcast, and Sherry has graciously allowed to dedicate this to Brian's memory. And, you know, I worked with Brian a couple times, and goofy good, amazing, stupid. Yeah. And this painting, you have to take a look at it. If you zoom in on it, the title of String Theory is so repletely threaded throughout this entire piece. It's quite stellar. So thank you very much for showing up today. I'm coming at you next week, just like I always promise, or threaten, depending on who you are. I love y'all. Be well, and I'll see you next week.
Yay! That was so good.
That was good. That was good.